Welcome back. This is part 3 of the 5-part Practicing Presence series. I'm Jen Carew, and I am your host on this channel called Inhabiting Joy. And this channel is all about helping you cultivate the inner habits to embody the joy that is already within. So in this series, I'm talking about presence. In part 1, I introduced the concept. And in part 2, I shared how to cultivate the awareness of the presence within. And now in part 3, I'm going to cover the next step in practicing presence, which is to notice your thought patterns. So this video is going to cover 3 really important things. The first is to understand how becoming aware of your thought patterns is actually going to help you to stay more present in your life. The second is to also understand the role that your emotions play in being present. And the third is a groundbreaking technique that is going to give you some tools to reframe any emotions that you're having in the moment so that you can recenter and come back to the present. So make sure and stay tuned to the end because you're not going to want to miss this last part. And then for more great tips about creating inner habits to embody the joy within, make sure and subscribe to the weekly Inhabiting Joy newsletter, and I'll drop a link to that in the description. All right, so let's get started. So I want to start by talking about the 3 core truths that are sort of the underpinning of everything I'm going to share in this video. These 3 things are really important to recognize. So the first is you are not your thoughts and you are not your emotions. I know I've said this before, but sometimes it's hard to remember. So remember, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're the presence that is observing your thoughts and your emotions. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, your thoughts and your emotions are not good or bad. They have no inherent meaning, and any meaning that they have is assigned by you. So that's number 2. And then the third is that your thoughts and your emotions are temporary. Again, your thoughts and your emotions, they are temporary. So now let's talk a little bit more about what I mean when I say notice your thought patterns. And this is step 2 in practicing presence. So what it means is witnessing your thoughts and your habitual response patterns to things by bringing your awareness to them, instead of being possessed by them or sort of hijacked by your thoughts and your habitual response patterns. When you notice them, it's like you're zoomed out just a little bit. So instead of being entangled with them and really attached to all of the thoughts and or the emotions that are arising in your head, you start to disentangle from them and detach from them. And you're able to get some distance so that you're noticing when they're arising. So another way I like to talk about this is to think of your thoughts as a stream or a river. The stream is continually flowing. Sometimes it's really calm and smooth, and sometimes it's really raging. It's choppy. Without awareness, we spend our lives in the river, sort of at the mercy of whatever the conditions are of the river at that moment. So we're feeling good when the river's calm, and we start to feel awful or not great when it starts to get choppy on us. So with awareness, we stand instead on the river bank, and we are watching the river in peace, no matter what is happening on the river. So to get an idea of how this can sort of play out in life, I want to share just an example of what it looks like when you're in the stream and you're entangled and attached to your thoughts. And I want to then share that same situation from the perspective of the riverbank when you're disentangled and detaching from your thoughts. So here's an example of what it can look like in the stream. Oh God, I can't believe I have that meeting tomorrow. I just remembered, I have that meeting with my boss tomorrow. Why did she schedule it so last minute? Like, what does she want to talk about anyways? Did I do something wrong? That gives me a sick feeling in my stomach. I hope this isn't about the incident last week. Like, I mean, I thought we resolved that. It can't be about that. It has to be about like something else. I don't know. Maybe it's not bad. I don't know. Ugh. So that's in the river. Pardon my acting, by the way. Okay. Now here is the same situation from the riverbank instead of in the river. I'm noticing that I'm starting to think about that meeting with my boss tomorrow. And my mind is trying to make it mean something. So it looks like my fear is trying to take over again, trying to tell me that I need to start worrying about this meeting tomorrow. Yeah, I've been here before. This is not a new thing. But there's no sense in worrying about something that's not real because it hasn't happened. So why am I going to get swept up in worry when I could just be here right now with my partner? I'm going to let it go. So that's what it can look like. The same situation in the stream and on the riverbank. So when we're in the stream, enmeshed with our thoughts, the now, the present moment, it's really taken over by our conditioning, our past, our personal history, everything that we bring with us, that we carry with us into the present moment. So depending on the meaning that we've assigned to the thoughts in the stream, we can start to feel carried away by a raging river of fear-based thoughts, or maybe we are feeling like we're floating on a calm stream. Again, depending on whatever meaning you've assigned to the thoughts that you're having. So the point here is that when we cultivate awareness of the presence within, like we discussed in part 2, we can make a new choice. The choice to watch our thought stream from the riverbank instead. The choice to notice our repetitive thought patterns, our habitual responses that arise instead of being affected by them. The riverbank is in the now. The stream, it's filled with thoughts of the past, thoughts of the future. So sometimes what happens is that we get so identified with a particular thought that it's hard to view it from the bank. And that's when we are unaware of the thoughts that we're having. And then we're not realizing how those thoughts are impacting us in any given moment. But there is a way to become aware of these thoughts. It's like another door into the same room. And that door is opened by bringing attention to your emotions. So now we're going to get into the role that emotions play in being present. So a great way to start is just by starting to make note of the emotions that are arising in your day-to-day life on a regular basis. Like what types of emotions come up for you consistently? So I have 2 different examples here. And the first is, so if you're frequently experiencing feelings of unease, tension, worry, anxiety, impatience, or overwhelm, this is a cue that you're thinking about the future. These emotions are all future focused. So how this can show up is worrying about what's going to happen next, needing to be somewhere else, or always thinking that the next thing is more important than what is happening now. Another way is endless future casting, or thinking of potential scenarios that could play out, which I call just problem solving before there's an actual problem. Anyways, it's easy to get swept up in thoughts about the future. But remember, none of it is real because the future, of course, has not happened. So you might have those types of feelings on a regular basis, again, which indicates that you're thinking a lot about the future. On the other hand, if you're frequently having feelings of sadness, anger, guilt, resentment, this is a cue that you're thinking about the past. These emotions are very past focused. So what this looks like is continually bringing stories and thoughts about the past into your current moment. So when you're thinking about the past a lot and you're ruminating maybe about a story that happened a minute ago or maybe even 20 years ago, you're continually bringing that story forward into the present moment and sort of reliving it. But the good news is that there is a way to reframe any emotion that you're having in any given moment by bringing your awareness to it through a technique that's called HAIL. And this was the groundbreaking technique that I was talking about in the beginning. So, what is HAIL? HAIL is a tool that was developed by a woman named Linda Rosetti. I'm going to drop her information in the description. So, Linda has done a decade of research in the field of human development and has featured her work in a new book called Dancing with Disruption. So, the great thing about HAIL is that it empowers us to reframe emotions that arise as a result of life disruptions. The truth is, our lives are a series of disruptions, right? And a lot of these disruptions have us questioning who we are and where we fit into the world. And that's why HAIL is so useful, because when emotions arise that have us questioning our very identities or who we view ourselves as in the world, we need a tool to help us to reframe those emotions. So, HAIL is a mnemonic, and it walks you through a series of questions to help you reflect on the emotions that are arising so that you can recenter and get back into the present moment. And that's why this all ties into practicing presence. Okay, so now I'm going to walk you through the 4 questions of HAIL. So, the first question is about honoring the emotion that you're feeling. So, here you're going to just name it. So choose any emotion that's been repetitively arising for you. So naming the emotion that you're feeling. Once you've chosen an emotion, you move into the A in HAIL, which is to ask. So you're going to ask, why this emotion? Why is this emotion arising at this particular time in my life? What meaning does this emotion have for me? Is this a common emotion for me? Where else has it shown up in my life? And next, you're going to move into the I of HAIL, which is influence. So you want to ask yourself, how is this emotion influencing my behavior? And then you're going to move into the L of HAIL, which is to learn. And in this one, you ask maybe the hardest question of all, but also maybe the most revealing one, which is, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Like, if this emotion were a good friend, what is it trying to tell me? By asking the 4 questions of the HAIL technique, you can begin to create some space between the emotion and the present moment. HAIL is a way to get out of this choppy river onto the safety of the riverbank. So when feelings and emotions arise, take it as your cue to be curious, to ask questions about them instead of resisting them or enmeshing yourself with them. Again, get some distance. Use HAIL to help you get some distance, to notice them, and to see them in a new light. So in other words, your emotion is the cue to practice HAIL. So how can we wrap this all up? As I shared earlier, your thoughts and your emotions have the meaning that you give them. So in any given moment, you can become like a clean slate, free of your past stories, free of your future worries. And that moment is when you are on the riverbank and you're in the now. And in that moment, that's when you're seeing the joy that's around you. That's when you're seeing the trees. You're not even looking at the thoughts right now. You're looking at the leaves. You're looking at the birds. You're hearing the sounds of the forest, wherever you are, right? And that's when love comes in. That's when you can write a new story for your life. But when past and future thoughts are preoccupying your mind and you're enmeshed with them, you get too caught up in the river to be present in your life. So practicing presence is about cultivating awareness of the presence within. It's about noticing your thought patterns and your emotions. And the third step, which we're going to talk about in part 4, is to choose acceptance. So along with the HAIL technique, I actually have 2 more great recommendations for you about practicing presence and playing with this idea of noticing your thoughts. So first is a 10-minute guided meditation called Letting Go. And the intention of this guided meditation is to help you get out of the river and on to the riverbank. So you're going to be able to create some distance from thoughts that arise that are creating unease, anxiety, worry, doubt, and open yourself up to, again, the awareness of peace and the awareness of joy in any moment. So in this meditation, I invite you to intentionally release thoughts that are no longer serving you. And I recommend doing it anytime you want to let go of a thought that is disturbing your peace. And the second thing I have is an exercise that's going to help you practice disentangling from your thoughts. I call this exercise the view from the riverbank. So this is a 10-minute journaling exercise. What you'll do is get out a clean sheet of paper and imagine yourself standing on the riverbank of your mind, just watching the stream of thoughts as they go by. As you're watching them, any thought you see, you're going to write down. Just write down every thought that you see in the stream of your mind for 10 minutes. Don't judge it. Don't censor it. Just write it down. And this, again, gets you into the habit of creating space between your thoughts, helping you disentangle, detach, and remember that you are the presence standing on the riverbank. You're not in the water with your thoughts. So again, I hope these are helpful. If you try them, please let me know, drop a comment, and let me know how it went. And don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter, Inhabiting Joy. And you'll get a weekly roundup of videos from this channel and a lot more stories and quotes and insights every week. And don't forget to subscribe so that you get notified anytime a new video pops up on this channel. So thanks for being here with me. Join me for part 4, where we discuss the final step in practicing presence, which is to choose acceptance. See you next time.